Under the African stars, I reached out, and for the first time in years, someone truly reached back. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about age. It was about feeling seen, and finally, allowing myself to feel again. What unfolded after that moment? You wouldn't believe it, even if I told you. Welcome to Vows and Betrayals, where we share true stories of healing heartbreak and unexpected connections. Tell me, where are you watching from tonight? And if you've ever felt like a stranger in your own skin, leave a dot in the comments. Someone else needs to hear they're not alone. Thanks for being here. It means more than you know. Now, let's dive into the story. Hey, I'm Margaret Hale. Most people just call me Maggie. I'm 65, and for the past 2 years, I've been a widow. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who travels alone. Airports used to mean something, reunions, holidays, coming home. But today, sitting in the noisy terminal of Arusha, surrounded by people half my age, it just felt hollow. Like I'd slipped out of my own story. They laughed, tapped their phones, lined up for lattes with oat milk and coconut foam. I sat there clutching a leather bag that still smelled faintly of Frank's cologne 2 years, and I still couldn't let that scent go. Frank. He was a war photographer, bold, restless. He had a way of stepping into chaos with his camera and coming out with a kind of quiet truth. We traveled the world together while he traveled. I followed, took photos in the margins, held his hand when he came home broken, year after year. He left behind dozens of framed photographs and one single charm necklace, a Maasai-inspired pendant he brought back from his last trip to Africa. I'd kept it tucked in a drawer, afraid that touching it would make the memories too loud. That's when I saw him. Tall, sun-warmed skin. A kind face, the kind that looked like it had heard 1,000 stories and still wanted to hear yours. He walked like someone who knew where he was going, but didn't mind slowing down for those who didn't. "Ma'am, would you like some help with that bag?" I looked up. A young man, probably in his early 30s, with warm eyes and a quiet confidence. His shirt bore a logo, Serengeti Spirit Tours. He was likely a local guide waiting for his group. "I'm Elijah. I work with the safari company," he added with a soft smile. "Figured you might be with the tour." I nodded gently, not quite sure why his presence felt strangely reassuring. Then I saw the pendant around his neck, swaying gently as he lifted my suitcase. It looked almost exactly like the one Frank gave me. The road out of Arusha curved through stretches of open land that seemed to breathe. The farther we drove, the quieter I became. Not because I was holding back, but because something in the landscape invited stillness. Mountains loomed in the distance, their peaks blurred by golden haze. Acacia trees leaned gently in the wind. Now and then, herds of zebras flickered past the roadside like moving brushstrokes. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like escaping. Eli drove with one hand on the wheel, the other tapping lightly to a rhythm only he could hear. The silence between us wasn't awkward, it was respectful somehow. "You've got an eye for moments," he said, glancing at my camera resting on my lap. I smiled, a little surprised he noticed. "I used to help my husband," I said. "He was the artist. I just framed the quiet in between." Eli nodded thoughtfully. "That's where the real stories live, isn't it? Between the noise." I turned to look at him more closely. "Do you always talk like that?" He grinned. "Only when I'm around people who listen." I laughed, a short, startled sound I hadn't made in weeks. Maybe months. "And you?" I asked. "Is this just a job? Or—" He kept his eyes on the road. It started that way. But someday, I want to build my own tour company, one that's truly rooted in the land that gives back to the communities here. My father always said, "You don't just pass through the earth, you leave fingerprints." I looked out the window, watching a line of giraffes move gracefully through the trees. Maybe that's why I came here, I thought. Not to chase adventure, but to remember what it feels like to leave a mark. The village rose from the dry earth, like something out of a dream, round mud huts with thatched roofs, goats weaving between children, red-robed figures standing tall against the wind. We stepped out of the jeep, and instantly I felt it, the weight of history pressing softly against my chest. There was no need for words here. Everything spoke: the dust, the rhythm of footsteps, the steady gaze of those who had seen lifetimes pass beneath the same sun. What caught me most were the women, their faces carved with quiet pride, their hands scarred strong and endlessly busy. One elderly woman sat near a cooking fire, staring out across the land like she was remembering something only she could see. I lifted my camera, and for a moment, she looked straight at me. Through the lens, I didn't see a stranger. I saw myself, or some part of me I'd forgotten, weathered, still, unapologetically alive. After I lowered the camera, I turned to Eli. "What is her name?" He spoke gently to the woman crouching beside her. They exchanged a few soft words. Then he turned back to me. She said, "Your face carries the memory of 1,000 sunsets." I blinked, caught off guard. It wasn't flattery, it was recognition. I sat down beside the woman, and for a long time we didn't speak. Just watched the sky shift. Later, as we walked toward the jeep, I found myself telling Eli a story I hadn't shared in decades. In the 80s, I joined a program where we wrote letters to African students, sent books, photos, silly little things. I don't know if any of it ever mattered. Eli stopped in his tracks. His eyes went wide. "I got one of those letters," he said, "when I was 10. The book was To Kill a Mockingbird. Inside the cover, someone had written, 'May your dreams grow wilder than the savannas.'" My knees went weak. I whispered, "I wrote that." And just like that, the years folded in on themselves. Not lost, just waiting to be found. The fire crackled low, sending soft orange light across the small clearing. Above us, the stars spilled over the sky like glitter scattered on velvet. No ceiling, no roof, just the raw hum of earth and sky breathing together. The others had gone quiet. Some were asleep in their tents, others whispering stories around another fire farther off. I sat alone with my journal in my lap pen, resting where words refused to come. Then I heard footsteps. Eli appeared holding a small tray with 2 tin cups and a bottle of red wine. He didn't say much, just set the tray down and sat beside me, the fire between us. "I figured you might need this," he said, passing me one of the cups. I took it, my fingers brushing his for the briefest second. That tiny contact felt louder than anything we'd said all day. We sat in silence for a while, sipping. The night wrapped around us like a familiar coat, worn but warm. "You've been quiet," Eli said gently. I nodded. "This trip, it's not what I expected." He didn't ask how. He didn't need to. After a pause, I whispered, "I spent most of my life trying to be what others needed me to be. A wife, a mother, a good woman. I'm not sure I ever stopped long enough to ask who I was when nobody was looking." Eli stirred the coals with a stick, watching the sparks dance. "My mother was like that," he said. "She gave everything to everyone else. When she passed, I realized I barely knew what she wanted for herself." The fire popped softly. Our eyes met. There was something unspoken in the space between us. Not desire, not confusion. Something quieter, recognition. The ache of two souls who had waited too long to be seen. I didn't move. Neither did he. But the distance between us softened like a thread, quietly stitching closed a tear that had been open for years. No words, just breath, just presence. And somehow, that was enough. The drive back to Arusha felt different. The same dusty roads, the same golden fields, but something in the silence between us had shifted. It wasn't emptiness. It was full of everything unspoken. Eli kept his focus on the road. I watched the world pass by through the window, slow, deliberate, as if it knew I needed more time. We didn't say much. We didn't have to. At the airport curb, Eli parked and stepped out to help with my luggage. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the pavement. I reached for my bag, but he got to it first, lifting it effortlessly. As he set it down beside me, something fell to the ground. A small photograph, old and faded. He bent down, picked it up, and paused. It was the photo Frank had taken of us on our anniversary trip, Kenya 1983. I was laughing. He had one arm around me, the savannah behind us, stretching endlessly. It was the only photo I'd brought with me, a memory tucked deep in my bag. I hadn't planned to share it. Eli looked at it for a long time. Then he said softly, "I've seen this man before." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "My father," he said. He told us stories about a white photographer who came to their village during the drought. A man who brought food medicine and refused to take pictures of suffering. He said that man changed everything for them. My throat tightened. "That was Frank," I whispered. Eli nodded, still staring at the photo. And now I'm here, standing next to his wife. We both went quiet. There was no way to name what this was, fate, coincidence, grace. Only that somehow the thread had come full circle. "You helped my father," he said, "long before I ever knew your name." "And you helped me," I replied, without ever asking why. No one moved. But something let go. Back in Boston, the cold felt sharper than I remembered. The trees were bare, the sidewalks damp with leftover rain. Everything looked the same, and yet, nothing did. The apartment was tidy, quiet, still full of Frank's books and the pictures we'd never taken off the wall. I walked through the rooms, slowly touching the edges of furniture like I needed to introduce myself to my own life again. Emily called that evening. Her voice came through bright and clipped the way it always was when she was worried, but trying not to sound like it. "So, how was it?" "It was eye-opening," I said carefully. A pause. "Are you okay, Mom?" I wanted to say everything. About Eli, about the photo, about feeling more seen by a stranger in 10 days than I had in 10 years. But I couldn't. Not yet. "I'm fine," I said. "Really." That night I sat by the window with a pen and a yellow legal pad. The journal I'd taken to Africa sat unopened beside me. Somehow, it felt too delicate now. So I wrote letters. Not emails. Not notes on a phone. Real letters. Some were to Emily. Some to Frank. Some to a younger version of myself I barely remembered. I didn't try to explain everything. I just told the truth. One word at a time. Weeks passed. The snow came, then melted, and Boston moved on as it always did. One morning, as I sat by the kitchen window, cradling a cup of tea, my email pinged. It was from a friend I hadn't heard from in years. No message, just a link. I clicked it. The headline read, "Young Entrepreneur Launches Ecotourism Program Empowering Local Villages in Tanzania." There was a photo attached. Eli standing tall in front of a refurbished safari jeep, surrounded by a group of smiling locals. Behind them, a new sign, Serengeti Spirit Tours, rooted in people, powered by purpose. I leaned back, heart pounding, for reasons I couldn't quite name. He'd done it. He was doing it. Not just guiding tours, he was guiding lives. And somehow, I'd been a small part of that. I reached for my pen again, not to write this time, but to underline something in the margin of my journal. We don't always need to change the world. Sometimes, we just need to show up. As I looked out the window, the sun broke through a sliver in the clouds. Warm light spilled across the table, soft and quiet. And for the first time in years, I smiled without waiting for someone else to smile back. Then I stood up and began to walk. Sometimes, life doesn't change in big dramatic moments. It changes in the quiet, in a look that lingers, a memory shared, a kindness that asks for nothing in return. Margaret didn't travel to Africa to be changed, and Eli never expected to find a piece of his past through her. But they met. And in that meeting, something softened. Not because either of them asked for it, but because they both showed up with open hearts. We don't always need answers. Sometimes we just need each other. To listen, to be seen, to remember that we are not too late to begin again. If this story moved, you tell us how in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, please like the video and subscribe to Vows and Betrayals. Thank you for being here. Let's keep walking together.